Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the roll call. Carly?
Joseph DiBenedetto.
Present.
Wayne Yu has an excused absence. Rashmi Krishnaraj is absent. Anne-Marie Knable is absent. And Michelle Frederick is running late, I believe, and so is Shirley Sung-Yun Lee. Sana Tayeb. Present. Joseph Chow.
Present.
Okay, so we don't have quorum present this evening, and we're not going to be able, as a council, to vote on anything or, provide any resolutions. I don't think even we can approve the minutes from our last meeting. So I know we don't need, okay, so why don't we just, while the three of us are here, look through the August minutes and let's get consensus to approve that, if you don't mind. Do you have the minutes? It should be in your folder. You okay, Louis? Do we have consensus on the approval of the minutes? Okay, so the minutes for our August meeting are hereby approved. Welcome, members of the public. I do want to state that Governor Hochul recently provided that the extension to the pandemic exception to the open meeting law is no longer in effect. And that came out on September 12th, I believe. So now all of our meetings must be open to the public except where otherwise permitted by law. Public notice of meetings shall be given to the community at least 72 hours prior to the date of the meeting through local news media and posted conspicuously in one or more designated public places prior to the meeting as provided by the open meetings law. The open meetings law requires that public business be performed in an open and public manner, that the community be fully aware of and able to observe the performance of public officials and attend and listen to their deliberations and decisions. A limited number of council members may be authorized to attend meetings by video conferencing under extraordinary circumstances as prescribed in Chapter 56 of the laws of 2022, amending Section 103-A of the Open Meeting Law. What that means is we have to have a quorum of our council members present for us to amend our bylaws, and the amendment would request that we permit video conferencing, okay? What that means is we would have to also prepare a resolution allowing those council members who are not present to vote. But before we can do any of that, we really do need a quorum. So this is something that we're gonna have to table for our next meeting, or perhaps call a special meeting of the council members so we can decide on how we're going to operate, which I would suggest in a hybrid manner. So after the meeting, during our business meeting, we can discuss that. So the public, thank you for coming. We look forward to seeing you in the coming months, and we really, truly appreciate your presence this evening. We have a really wonderful special education presentation to be presented by Nathan Yakubov. And without further delay, I'd like to jump right into that presentation with your permission, Superintendent. We'll follow with the superintendent's report and public speaking after our presentation. If during the presentation anyone has any questions, I'll allow the questions at that time. And we look forward to hearing about. Sure, thank you.
So good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see so many people here tonight. It's been a long time since we were able to meet together in public, so welcome. I will do my superintendent's presentation following the special education IEP process for families. But I am very excited to introduce Nathan Yakubov. He is our administrator for special education for District 25. I am happy to let our community know that he will be a resource for everyone in our district office. You will be able to email him and communicate with him. And I am so excited that our office has been given this position, and Nathan is knowledgeable and skilled in this world. So I would like to welcome him this evening. Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you, Superintendent Mango. Good evening, everyone. So I'll be spending a few minutes speaking about special education and the IEP process for families. So as stated, my name is Nathan Yakubov. I'm the administrator for special education for District 25. My contact information is on the slide, and you can feel free to reach out to me with any questions or concerns you have regarding special education evaluations, services, placement, and assistive technology. Okay. As you can see from the visual representing District 25 and our students, at District 25, we strive to empower learners, embrace differences, and provide equitable access and opportunity for all. For some students, that's going to require having an individualized education program, an IEP, to be able to access the curriculum and the supports with individualized support. So what is an IEP? An IEP is a legal document, and it stands for an individualized education program. All students with disabilities who require special education services have an IEP. The IEP contains information about your child's interests, their strengths, their needs, their goals, and the educational program that's being recommended for them. It's a legal document that describes how the Department of Education will provide your child a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. And we'll talk about that a little bit further on. So let's first discuss the process for students that are in 3K and pre-K. So we're talking about any child that's between ages 3 to 5 years old and not yet in kindergarten. Preschool special education services can support children ages 3 to 5 with disabilities or delays in development. The services are provided free of charge to families, and these services can help support your child's learning, speech and language, physical development, social emotional skills, and other areas. The Committee on Preschool Special Education is the one that manages the process for the preschool children. There are 10 offices citywide. I'll share the contact information for our office, for our district, in a minute when we go to the next slide. So in order to start the process for an evaluation for your child who's in 3K or pre-K, if you're concerned about your child's development, the first thing you would do is write a letter to your CPSE. That letter is called a referral and must be made in writing. And in that letter, you're going to put down that you're requesting a referral, an evaluation for your child. You'll provide your child's full legal name and date of birth. Describe any areas that you're concerned with your child's development. List any services your child may have received already in the past, and provide your full contact information, including your name, your address, telephone number, and if English is not your first or preferred language, indicate that as well. After the referral is made, you'll receive a packet from the CPSE office, which will include a notice that they received your letter, a list of evaluation sites that can evaluate your child, a consent form for an evaluation, and information about your rights as a parent, and a medical form. Once you receive the packet, you should choose a site from the list that you'll receive and set up an appointment. If your child speaks a language other than English, make sure that you choose a site that can evaluate them in that language. At your first appointment with the social worker, you're going to be asked to provide consent for the evaluation. This is informed written consent that you are allowing your child to be evaluated. If you choose not to consent in writing to the evaluation, your child will not be evaluated. When we talk about evaluating your child for the first time, there's a number of evaluations that they will be doing. They'll start with a psychological evaluation, which will test your child's cognitive skills, a social history interview, which gets background from you about your child's development and your family history, a physical evaluation form, which is from your doctor, and an observation of your child in their setting, in their natural setting. Any other assessments or evaluations that you feel would be necessary, or that the team would feel is necessary, they may request that as well. So after the evaluations are complete, you see in the third column, you're going to be called to an IEP meeting. The CPSC meeting will be held, and at that meeting, they're going to review the evaluation results with you. They'll share and learn more about your child, and you'll share more information about your child with the team. They'll determine if your child is eligible for preschool special education services, and after the meeting, if your child is eligible for services, the CPSC will arrange for those services to be provided free of cost to you. Once again, services cannot begin unless you consent that you are giving permission for those services to begin. So as I mentioned before, this is the contact information for CPSC 3, which covers districts 25, 26, 28, and 29. I obviously work with District 25, but they cover 4 districts. And all the contact information is over there on this slide. Now, the process for school-age children, we're talking children ages 5 to 21 years old, is similar to what we just spoke about with some differences. The first difference is that although you still have to put your request in writing, you will be submitting it to the school this time, to your child's actual school, the principal at the school or another staff member at the school. Once again, the referral has to be in writing, and it's going to describe what your concerns are about your child with their learning, their development, their behavior. You're going to be requesting a special education evaluation, list any services that your child has received prior, make sure you're including your child's full legal name and date of birth, and your information as well, your name, address, and cell phone number. And once again, if your first language is not English or preferred, you'll mention that as well. After we receive your letter and the case is open in our system, you will receive a notice of referral letter. And that letter will be asking you to come and meet with the social worker for an interview. If your child never received special education services before, you'll be asked to give consent, that you're giving permission, and once again, to have your child be evaluated for services. Even if you're the one who requested the evaluation, you need to provide consent for the evaluation in order for the evaluation to begin. After you give consent, the Department of Education will have 60 calendar days to evaluate your child. And the evaluation will be done in all areas related to the disability, to the areas of concern. Once again, like we mentioned, there'll be the interview, there'll be what we call a psychoeducational evaluation, where they'll be looking at your child's cognitive skills. There'll be a medical form, the physical examination from your doctor. And again, there's going to be an observation of your student, of your child in their setting. Some other assessments that might be needed for your specific child, they may need a speech and language assessment. They may need an occupational or physical therapy evaluation or a behavior assessment. They'll also be looking at the teacher's assessments, the teacher's reports, and reports from previous years as well. And your child may need to be evaluated for assistive technology, which we'll speak about a little bit later. You can also provide your evaluation team with outside evaluations. Those will be considered by the team that will review those as well. Any evaluations that the Department of Education does for you will be done free of charge. If your home language is not English, your child should be assessed in their language as well, in their home language. So that's what we call a bilingual evaluation, and that will be done with the home language along with English as well. After the evaluations are complete, we've gotten to the final stage, and that's the IEP meeting. Again, you'll be invited to this meeting after the evaluations are completed. At the meeting, the IEP team, which you are a member of as a parent, will review the information from the evaluations and any other sources that you provide, and the team will decide if your child is eligible for special education services. Before you get to the meeting, before the IEP meeting, as a parent, you should gather any information you can about your child that you can share with the team. Be prepared to discuss your child, their strengths, their needs, how that affects their learning in school and at home. Review the evaluations that were conducted. Prepare any questions that you might have before the meeting, and come to the meeting with those questions. Provide the team with any evaluations that you've done on the outside, privately. Provide that before your meeting as well. And you have the right to invite anybody that you feel may be supportive to you or helpful at the meeting. Just notify the team in advance that you would like this person to participate at the meeting with you as well. You can also request a parent member to be at your meeting with you. A parent member is a member of the community that has a child with a disability, and they can come to the meeting to support you with any questions you have as well at the meeting. If you would like a parent member to be at the meeting, just make that request at least 72 hours before the meeting. Now, in order to be eligible for special education services, students have to meet one of the 13 disability classifications as defined by the New York State Education Department's regulations. Like I said, there's 13 of them. We could just mention a few of them over here. One is deafness, a child with hearing impairment, who's unable to hear most sounds, even with a hearing aid. A child with an emotional disturbance is another category. A child has a learning disability, so it's affecting their ability to learn. It might affect their ability to read, to write, to listen, to speak. A child may have multiple disabilities. That's can be in different areas together for one student. A child might have a speech or language impairment that's affecting their ability to understand language or to use language. So those are just a few of the 13 disability classifications, but your child would have to meet one of those in order to be eligible for services. Just a note on that, not meeting standards or grade standards is not automatically a classification or eligibility. We need to fall under one of the 13 eligibility classifications where the disability is affecting your child's ability to participate and to learn. The IEP, as we mentioned, is a written statement of the plan that we provide with you to provide your child with a free and appropriate public education in their least restrictive environment. And what that means is that your child will be in a school and in a classroom with non-disabled peers as much of the day as appropriate for your child. So in order to do that, we make a recommendation of where your child will receive their services. And basically in this slide, you can see the different options that are available to support your child in the least restrictive environment. The first one we have there is general education. That's a child who doesn't receive any IEP services, no special education services. He's in just the regular general education classroom. If a child needs more support, they may be recommended for related services. That means they'll be in a regular general education classroom and they'll just be working with a therapist, perhaps a speech therapist or an occupational therapist, to address specific areas of need. Your child may need general education with special education teacher support services, or otherwise known as SETS. That's where a special education teacher is working either one-on-one with your child or in a small group in order to support their learning of the curriculum in their classroom. Integrated co-teaching services is a model where we have two teachers, one special education teacher and one general education teacher, and your child is in a class with special education students and general education students together and getting the support that they need, as well as the models of appropriate development in the classroom with them. District 75 specialized programs, those are a more restrictive setting where everyone in the school will be a student with an IEP and will be receiving some sort of special education program. I skipped one, we also have special class services. And that is in a community school, and your child would be recommended to be in a small class where everyone in that class is a child with an IEP, and the child has one special education teacher as well as some other adult support in the classroom to work with the children. Then we have the most restrictive settings. Those are day and residential placement or home and hospital instruction. And those are for students who cannot participate in a community school or in one of our District 75 schools because the level of support that they need is much greater. So they need more of a full-time program, either a day program or a residential program where they're actually staying there overnight. And then you have home and hospital instruction where either for medical reasons or otherwise the student can't be present in school, so they would be receiving instruction at home or in the hospital. So what you'll see in this slide also is that there's an arrow going up and down on the side of these programs. And the reason for that is because these are not meant to be like in a ladder or in an order for specific students. At any given time, any students can be within any of these settings, depending on their need. And just because a student may start in one setting doesn't mean that they're going to stay there. Or if they need, more support or less support, we will be reviewing that, your team, your school, and your child can be moved in and around these different types of programs, and they can be flexible as well. It doesn't have to be for the entire school day. We can have a combination of different services, different settings as well. Within all of these programs, your child may be recommended as well for a bilingual component, for part of the day or for the full day of instruction as well. There are times that your child's IEP will need to be reviewed. There are annual reviews that are conducted at least once a year, and a reevaluation which occurs once every 3 years. In both situations, the team is reviewing the IEP recommendation, and for a reevaluation, there may actually be new assessments conducted as well. You or the school can request a review earlier as well if there are any concerns. You would put that request in writing to the school or to the team. But the reevaluation should not take place more than one time a year unless you and the Department of Education agree in writing. Another service that might be recommended as part of your IEP is assistive technology. Assistive technology can help students communicate with teachers and classmates, do their schoolwork, and participate in school programs and activities. AT tools are commonly described as low-tech, mid-tech, or high-tech. And an evaluation will determine the type of tool best able to support your child at school. And the device can be something as simple as a laptop, as you see over there, to support your child, or something, as you see in the right-hand corner, a little bit more involved. That's a communication device, where the student would actually be clicking on a picture or a word in order to elicit sound to help them communicate. If you'd like to request an evaluation for assistive technology, you will need to put that in writing with the date, your child's name, date of birth, school, and ID number, a description of why you think they need assistive technology, your name and your signature. Your child will be evaluated at school, or at home, or at a department location, depending on the need of your child. Your child, your teachers, and you, if needed, will be trained to use the equipment that is recommended. Goals will be developed specifically for the device and how that will be used throughout the school day. Sometimes the evaluation will recommend a trial period for your child to use the device and see how they perform with that. And then there'll be another review to determine if they actually will benefit from the device. After we receive your request, you'll be contacted for consent. Once again, you need to give consent that you are allowing your child to be evaluated for this type of evaluation. And then the department would have 60 calendar days to evaluate your child to know if they need that. We do provide translation and interpretation services over the phone and in person, as well as translation of documents, including evaluations and assessments, and sign language interpretation as well. If you need any of these services, speak with your IEP team. If you'd like an interpreter at your child's IEP meeting, or if you'd like any of the documents that you received to be translated. Some students might not need an IEP to receive supports throughout the school day. For those students, we would offer them a 504 accommodations plan. And 504 accommodations refers to Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. It requires schools to offer accommodations for students with disabilities. These accommodations can help students with health needs to participate in DOE programs and activities on an equal basis with their peers who don't have disabilities. Your child might be eligible for these health services or other types of accommodations if they have a physical or mental impairment, and the impairment limits at least one major life activity. Some example for that might be your child, for example, breaks a leg. That would be a physical impairment. Something more long-term, maybe if your child has asthma, that affects their ability to participate in activities. And if it affects any of their life activities, for example, communicating, breathing, doing things with their hands, lifting, learning, all of those would be considered that perhaps your child will need an accommodation. Your child's doctor would complete the form, the request form, and the doctor may suggest that the school provide certain accommodations. The team, the 504 team, will review the request with the doctor and the suggested accommodations, and if appropriate, let you know how they'll be provided at school. Some examples of accommodations that can be provided are classroom accommodations, for example, where your child sits in the classroom. They may need a certain type of seating in the classroom. Testing accommodations, they may need accommodations, for example, more time on a test, or being in a separate room for a test. A paraprofessional, your child may need an adult to support them throughout the day due to their medical condition. Or your child may need some type of accommodation for transportation on the bus. You have the right to challenge school decisions made regarding your child. You can request mediation or an impartial hearing. Both of those requests would be made in writing, and you have the email addresses on the bottom of the slide where you can send those in. Alternatively, you can submit it to the school as well, if that's easier for you. Mediation and impartial hearing, a slight difference. For mediation, a mediator will help you and the school work out disagreements. That's a third party. We'll try to sit with you and the school to see if there's anything that we can work out in order to accommodate the needs of your child. An impartial hearing is where an impartial hearing officer that's assigned listens to both sides of the disagreement and decides what, if anything, went wrong and how to fix that. Again, both requests should be made in writing with your child's full name and address, ID number, birth date, and school, and of course your contact information. And very importantly, it should also include what solution you are looking to get from the mediation or impartial hearing. So you would write down what your concern is and what you would like to see resolved. So we spoke about a lot of information today. I know it's a lot because it's very involved, special education. But over here you have some websites where you can learn more about everything that we spoke about in the past few minutes. We have the New York City Department of Education, the school's website, schools.nyc.gov. You can look into the state education department as well, nysed.gov. And of course, our community school district 25 will have access to this presentation as well as a lot of other information and context as well. So you can go ahead and look at that. And of course, our contact information is there, phone or text messages, email, and we can provide assistance in Spanish and Chinese as needed. Put that up if there's any questions.
So I'm gonna start with the question before I bring, so you indicated earlier there are 13 eligibility classifications, so where do we look for that? Like, can we have it spelled out someplace?
Yes,
we
it's on
can-
it, sure. So those are on the school's website, on the schools.nyc.gov and on the state website as well. Parents can look in there and see if they fall under any of those classifications. And of course, they can speak with the team at their school or myself as well, if there's any question about, my child has this, I'm concerned in this, would this fall under any of those kind of classifications?
So if my child does not fall within one of those classifications, does that mean they're not gonna get it? Or is there like an option where they can,
That's a good question. So yes, they would not be eligible for special education services if they don't qualify under one of those classifications. They may need 504 accommodations, depending if they have a disability or something that's impairing them. Alternatively, the school can provide support services as well, not special education, but academic support services as well, if needed.
You had an 850 number, was that a 718?
The number for the district?
No, you had an 850-3430-648. On the last page, you can go to the last slide.
347?
It's 347-850.
That's our number.
That's
our district.
That's the district number.
I also have another question.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Is there a bilingual evaluator in the district? And what is the latest time for a pre-K or younger kid to apply for evaluation that will actually take place during the same year?
So that's a great question. If we have bilingual evaluators in the district and if there's a timeline for requests for pre-K and 3K evaluations. So for the bilingual evaluations, we have a continuum of evaluators that we would tap into for that, depending on the language and depending on the need. So many schools have bilingual staff, bilingual evaluators on the school staff. If not, we have district-wide, and we may at times contract out those evaluations to an agency who can provide that in that language as well. So for those specifically, they would work with the school team, and if necessary, they can, of course, parents would reach out to me for any specific cases in terms of bilingual. In terms of the 3K and the pre-K, there is no official cutoff date. A parent can always request until the student is actually in kindergarten, they can request an evaluation. But you did touch on whether or not it will be timely. If it's the end of the school year, if it's the summertime, and there will not be enough time for them to evaluate the child and make a recommendation and implement the services before the child moves on to kindergarten, that would not be the most appropriate time to request it. So we want to encourage parents that if there are concerns, to speak to their school, to the teacher, as soon as there are concerns, get feedback, and if there are concerns, reach out to their CPSC to request an evaluation. Again, because your child is evaluated, does not necessarily mean that they will qualify for services or be recommended for services. And even if they are recommended for services, it is important to know that it's the parent's option if they want to accept those services and continue with that or not.
Thank you. Yes.
Is a similar version of your presentation available for other districts where students may need the same similar services?
So all the information I provided can be found on the school's website and the state ed website. Obviously, I made this presentation, so I put it together. So I don't know what other districts may have, but all the information is on the school's website, I can tell you that.
And it applies, you can use this in other districts as well.
Yes, and the information is universal for New York City, yes, absolutely. Yes,
Terrific, thank you.
sure, yes.
Yeah, I don't need the mic. My name is Venus. My question or request for you and your team is to create a checklist for parents, because a lot of times, and it's nice to see you, you haven't seen my son since he was like 6 years old. That is the founder of Khan Tutorial, so it's so bad. Hi. So I was gonna actually mention something similar, because a lot of parents don't understand MTSS or RTI. So a lot of times, like you stated, the child might not have a diagnosed disability. It might just be they need repetition, they need tutoring services, they need parents dedicated time at home. So if the parents had a checklist of like resources at the school, reading curriculum and reading interventions and enrichment, well, math resources like Khan tutorial or times online that they can go through before requesting referral, or even before teachers refer children. Sometimes a teacher will refer a teacher, but there isn't a checklist that they went through all those things first before saying that a kid has a disability.
Absolutely.
And then on the flip side, I also like to encourage parents that a disability is diagnosed by a medical professional. So my son was diagnosed with ADHD at 4 years old by a licensed clinician, not at the school. And then I put the referral in because I knew my son had a disability. A school cannot diagnose autism, and a school cannot diagnose ADHD. So parents also want to consider if you have some concerns about your kids' early intervention, and also talking to your pediatrician, so that you're kind of working in tandem with the school instead of them identifying something wrong with your kid in the classroom.
Thank you. Yes, I agree, and definitely have to. Those are things that, like I mentioned at the social history interview, when you're meeting the first time with the team, to bring up and ask those questions, and definitely the parents encouraged at the meeting to bring up these types of questions as to what supports have been provided or can be provided outside of the special education. And just remember that when we're talking about classification for an IEP, we're specifically talking about educational disability. So while autism and ADHD are one of the classifications, there may need to be a recommendation from a medical expert as well that will be taken into consideration. But not in all cases will that lead to us classifying the child as having an educational disability. So that's very important to note as well. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Is this information shared with pediatricians in District 25 so they know that these services are available and they can identify their role as another fellow parent of a special needs child together with myself? So clinicians can be connected to what the school system is doing.
So thank you for that. So that is actually the work that I've been doing that I'm going to speak about now, doing outreach to the community in different ways. So I want to thank you for that because I wasn't thinking about that and now I'm going to do that. So I think that's great. And I just want to add to what Ms. Ketchum's saying. Hi, Venus. So good to see you. I want to spend some time thanking Nathan, but I also want to thank the CEC because this topic and subject was so important to them that they added the requirement to have a special education presentation at one of their meetings before November. So I want to thank you for that. And the other piece that they also asked for us to do, which we can do anytime after this meeting, is a presentation on MTSS, which is something that Ms. Ketchum just mentioned, because it's twofold. We want our families to know this process, to understand this process, to know that there's supports here in the district, there's supports at schools, and there's also parent supports out there like Ms. Ketchum and other parents in the community that they can go to. But this process is a process that can occur anytime because it is a parent's right. But we also have support systems within our schools to help students before special education may be necessary. And that's what Ms. Ketchum was talking about. You'll hear me mention it briefly when we talk about our priorities this year and what we're focusing on, but it is training for our teachers around what we call Tier 1 MTSS, which is knowing your students well, understanding their needs, both academically and social emotionally, and targeting them specifically in the classroom. Then we also have an additional layer of students who may need AIS and RTI, which are additional programs that work in conjunction what happens within the classroom. And those that process is what we call MTSS, and it happens throughout all of our schools. So parents can always ask for an evaluation, but they can also say, talk to me about your Tier 1 MTSS. What are some of your Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports that you may have for my child to target their individual needs? And our schools, I can only speak for District 25, but our schools in District 25 The teachers and administrators will recognize that, and they will be able to answer those questions. The last thing that I wanna say, and you'll hear me talk a lot between being an educator and being a parent. One of the reasons that I also think this presentation is very important, and we do have it translated into Chinese, for those of you who may need it, and we have the Spanish translator in the back of the room, is because I want parents to know that throughout this entire process, it is their choice. The school cannot force any services on a parent. But what's really important to myself and my team, and why we're so happy to have Nathan with us, is that we want parents to know what's available and make the best choices for their children.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Superintendent, and thank you, Mr. Yacobo. Great presentation right here. I just want to say before I forget it and lose my train of thought, I just want to say, because we haven't met before, but the entire time you were speaking, in my head I was saying yes, yes, yes. So thank you for that. I mean, as a parent, I started on this journey. I have a special needs kid, and I started almost 4 years ago. And I wish I had this depth of information at that time. It would have saved me a lot of psychological trauma and therapy afterwards, right? But that's why I say it's a great initiative, and thank you, Superintendent, for that, for taking this on. It's excellent. I have a question about assistive technology. Can you share a little bit more about like the examples or case uses of it? And the second part of that question is, let's say if a tool is really technically advanced or different, are the teachers that are working with the kids, are they able to work with that technology as well?
Thanks, great question. So the Department of Education has a Center for Assistive Technology, which is a great team and a resource. So they have trained evaluators in these areas that would go out and evaluate the student, speak with the team, and then provide the training to the people that are working, the therapist or the teacher that's working with the child who is recommended for the device. And again, it's a range of services. Technology has improved vastly as well. Like back in the day, special education communication, assistive technology would have been a spiral notebook with pictures that referred to certain things, which may still be relevant to some students, whereas nowadays, most of them will be receiving an iPad that's preloaded with these programs. So those are the type of things that we have for communication. Again, there may be also, you may have a certain technology for children who are visually impaired as well. We have a array of resources for that as well. But I think we've seen a large uptick in the communication supports as well, because technology has been growing. And also those programs can be modified depending on the need of the student and the need of the parent. So as they grow and as they need more support, that can be added. And as they need more support, they'll get more training. The other important thing is that those devices go home with the student as well. So the parents have that opportunity to carry over those skills at home and to really work with their student as well over there. They have a website also. I didn't put it in, Center for Assistive Technology. You should be able to see more on the school's website as well, in terms of their types of services. But again, it's gonna depend on every situation, every student. I don't want to say that there's one type of thing. That's why I put from the laptop to the communication device, because it's gonna differ what the student needs and also what they're capable of using. So it's really gonna depend on the evaluation and their exposure to it. Some kids, we have some students coming in from preschools where they've had exposure to those types of resources, and some are just getting it for the first time. And that's why I think it's important for parents to be aware of it, because you as a parent can bring that up to the team also, whether or not they've considered that for your child and whether or not that might be appropriate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And can I ask one more question? The other question I had was, I'm still a little bit confused about the 504 accommodation and how that differs from the IEP. Is that physical or mental limitations you were saying, or what's exactly the difference?
Sure. So the 504 is really a medical type of accommodation. So whereas I mentioned before, the IEP is really for children with an educational disability. There may be some carryover because sometimes you'll have similar impairments that affect the child's learning. But in cases where sometimes we may have a child with just a physical limitation, whereas cognitively they are on grade level. So they don't need to be in a special education setting for support for that, because they can participate with general education peers on their grade level, but they can't physically get to the class without that accommodation. So that would be the difference. Yeah.
May I ask you one more question? Self-contained classes, diploma bound, non-diploma bound, high school terms, right?
Is it high school term?
Are they high school terms?
Well, we're talking about diploma, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's high school.
Okay, sorry, I take that back. I didn't ask anything.
Any other questions? Okay, well, my information has been on the board, so you have it there. I'm free to talk afterwards if anybody has, wants to email me or call me. I'm very happy to be part of the District 25 team with Superintendent Domingo, so thank you all for watching.
Thank you, Mr. Yakubov. So it's very important that the parents in our community understand you're not alone. If there are special needs, if there's something that concerns you, please, know there are resources and reach out to your school, reach out to the district, reach out to Mr. Yakubov, or even contact us here at CEC. So thank you, Mr. Yakubov. So I think this will segue us into your presentation. So I present to you now our Superintendent, Danielle Domingo.
Thank you. Since we're live streaming tonight, I made my report visual. Yeah, you need to click because I'm a clickaholic and I just click like crazy. So I like to have somebody clicking alongside me. So what I want to spend some time talking about tonight in our agenda is we had an amazing school opening where we were excited to welcome back our students, staff, and families to school. For those of you who traveled around the district or were at individual schools with your children, you can look at some of the amazing things that we had happening on our Twitter, our Facebook page. It was just a happy time, and our staff and students were so excited to see each other. And one of the things that I said is that as we emerge from this pandemic, I just know that this is going to be an amazing year, and I'm so excited to welcome us all back. And this is a perfect example of it, having so many families here tonight. Then I'm going to take some time welcoming our new team members. We have lots of new principals. So were you doing the team members first? Oh, okay. And then I'm going to take some time talking about my listening and learning tour that's been happening across our district and the 90-day plan, as well as going over some of the district priorities this year. Okay, now you can go to the site. So our schools across the district successfully opened their doors to begin to start the school year. We were very fortunate, and this always happens. Every time there's a new mayor and chancellor, they always want to come to District 25. So for the opening days of school, we were really excited to welcome our chancellor, two of our deputy chancellors, and our comptroller that came to visit our schools across the district, and they spent time with students and staff, and it was a wonderful opportunity for them. I'd like to welcome our new team. So tonight you met Mr. Yakubov, and as you know, he is going to be an amazing resource for our schools and support for our schools, but also for our families. I hate my picture, just so you know, but everyone else looks great. So Dr. D'Antona is still here as our deputy superintendent. Beverly Mitchell is our executive director of school supports and operations. She will be supporting us with facilities, as well as school operations and health and wellness. Louis Latito, our field support liaison, as all of you know. And And then we have instructional leads. So for the first time, we have instructional leads assigned just to District 25. And we are really excited to align them to the priorities of the district, but also the needs of each individual school. They will be going in to help with professional learning, supports for teachers, supports for building leaders. So Debbie Winkler is our teacher development and evaluation coach. We have 3 instructional leads, Anna Arrigo, Angelique Hewitt, and Melinda Willens. We also have Diana Stein. She is an instructional lead to help with health and wellness and physical education. And I see Mr. Kessler is here today. Diana Stein is one of the leads who helped District 25 get in compliance with our physical education across the district. We also have Arifa Khan and Danielle Bergman. These are 2 of our academic intervention service coordinators. They will be supporting our teachers in AIS and MTSS, and Tracy Vaughn, who is academic policy, performance, and assessment, to make sure we are in compliance and that our students are scheduled in the ways that they need to be to receive the services they are receiving. I am very proud to announce to our communities that District 25 is #1. Thank you, Ivan, and thank you, Nathan and Tracy, in ensuring that our students received their special education services right away, #1 in the city. So I'm really excited. We have more work to do, but it was a focus and a target for us to make sure that our students were starting off right with the supports that they needed. We have Winnie Chang, who is a social worker who will be supporting our guidance counselors and school social workers. She is also a support for families. She has been supporting families of students in temporary housing. She works very closely with community-based organizations and connecting families to them. So we welcome Wing, as well as Esther, who's in the back. You can wave. Esther Maludo, introduce yourself as our family leadership coordinator.
Look at that picture, look at that picture.
What a beautiful picture of you, Esther. Oh, yes, and Richard Braun, yes, I'm sorry. Richard Braun is our L compliance and performance specialist, doing something very similar to Nathan, but making sure that our new language learners get the supports that they need, and that we are connecting the right programs to the needs of our students. We also have Marissa Martin, who is our community coordinator. She will be helping supporting me with outreach to the community, very similar to what was recommended here tonight, and also supporting our families as well. And Janet Ayala Capo, who is my administrative assistant. So as you can see, the District 25 team is expanded and ready to support this community, and we are getting to work. I would also like to welcome our new principals. We have Elisa Barisi from PS 20, Nancy DiPaolo, IS 25, Danielle Zabrowski, PS 193, Ingrid LaFalace from PSIS 164, and Catherine Specchia from PS 130. So round of applause for everybody. We're really excited. We are a family. Okay. I'm also going to talk very briefly about my listening and learning tour and my 90-day plan. So I am very excited to have the opportunity to travel across all parts of our district to talk about the work that we do, but to also hear from our families, our community members, our teachers, our DC 37 representatives, our paraprofessionals, about what is happening across our district, capturing what we do well, and then talking about some of the things that we can do differently. So the examples of what we heard here this evening, 2 really wonderful things that we wouldn't have thought about in terms of making our schools, our communities, and opportunities better for our students. So I have already started. We spent some time visiting both with schools. We've met with community-based organizations. I have met with students and will continue to do so. Every time I travel to a school, it's what I do. I meet with groups of parents and groups of students. So our 90-day plan focuses on deepening our Strong Roots, Strong Schools vision. It's focused around our key areas of excellence, continuing our work with equity and diversity. We are one of the most diverse and overcrowded districts, but we are one of the most diverse districts across this city, and I think that's what makes us amazing. We will continue to focus on wellness and safety, social emotional learning, and empowering our learners. I believe that our learners have so much to say, and we are at a time in our work as educators to allow them to say that. We need to grow and learn together as we emerge from this pandemic. What went well? How can we change the way we think about the world through the technology that we were exposed to? And what are some of the things that the students care about and want to see more of? So my listening and learning tour, those are all the key places that I will be. And I invite anyone to come to any and all of them to help deepen our strong roots. But you can see where I will be at www.d25.nyc/event. And here's Dr. D'Antona, he'll tell you where I am. So this Friday, actually, I have a virtual event. So it's a mixture of virtual and live and in-person. My in-person events will reach all areas of the district. You can skip through that. Yep, so I am going to talk about what our priorities are during these listening and learning tours, but I'm also going to ask 3 guiding questions. What are we doing well? What areas do we need to strengthen? And what advice do you have for me? So there will be opportunities, and you can also access this online to give feedback during this meeting. You can email us at event@d25.nyc, or you can contact me online for feedback at www.d25.nyc/feedback. All right, so I want to thank Nathan. He talked about the things that we value as a community. One of the things that I love about our tree, even though Mr. Kessler says it's still alive, I said it's live and growing, right? We made this together, students, parents, administrators, teachers. It is what we value. From many roots, we grow together. As school communities, we grow together. Together as a district, we grow and share the learning together. As a district office now, we're growing together as one community for our students, with parents and with community-based organizations. As we talked about, empowering learners, embracing our differences and growing from them, and providing equitable access and opportunities for all of our students, whatever that looks like, from our special needs learners to our accelerated learners to our learners in between. We feel that it is important that everyone gets what they need. And one of the ways that we focus on that is ensuring that we know our students well. This is our mission statement that we talked about together as a community. We can skip through that. And one of the things that I know that you have heard our chancellor talk about is his 4 pillars for his clear vision, as well as the chancellor's big goals. So reimagining the school experience, and scaling and sustaining what works across our community, and making sure that wellness is having an impact to student success, as well as partnering with families. So one of the things that we have already done together as a community, you can flip, is we looked at the Chancellor's 4 expectations across our community, and we said to each other, what did we hear him say? What are the things that he values, that he believes can move the vision of New York City forward? And then we said, what are we currently doing aligned to this work? And there are many things that we are doing together aligned to this vision. And then the final question that we asked was, what else can we do to deepen our roots? So we're going to continue to engage in that conversation to make what we already do better, and then to change the things that we need to look at differently. And how we're gonna do this? We're gonna start off strong. Here's our tree, there's Dr. Mike and I, we're ready. We're ready to support our schools and our communities. And these are the things that we have always done together to make sure that we're focused on the right things for our students. It's about knowing our students well through a strategic review of data, looking very carefully at what we have been successful in and what are some of the things that we need to target differently. And then targeting those areas of need, making sure that we're saying, here's what we do well, but here's what we really need to work on together. Researching possible solutions, not just changing things to change them because our data didn't look well, but what are some of the things that we can do, and what are some research-based ideas that we can take with us? And then organizing, facilitating, and communicating of professional learning opportunities and support plans for both our teachers and our students. If there's something that's not working across our schools, and it's something that we need to support adults in supporting students, we're ready to do that. And so this is what we've always done, but we're going to come back stronger and do it better. And then new implementation of learning. One of the things that Dr. and Mike have always done is go and spend time with teachers in classrooms, and now we're really excited to have a team to help us do that. And then gather feedback from our students, from our teachers, from our families to say, how is this impacting your children? So this is actually the model that we are going to focus on, and we're starting this across all of our schools. Over the past few years, we have done some very strategic work with math. We did early childhood mathematics with our teachers in supporting them in building their knowledge of early childhood math. We also engaged in Algebra for All for our 4th and 5th grade teachers, as well as working to build a Regents readiness curriculum to be able to offer Regents classes, particularly in math, to more of our students. And we are now going to pivot and spend some time focusing on reading. We're going to do that by looking at the reading needs of all of our students. We will continue our work around equity visits, looking at our students who are performing furthest away from success and targeting them specifically in the area of reading, and supporting that through MTSS and culturally responsive and sustaining education. So our key areas of focus. Grades K to 3, we're going to focus on learning to read. And grades 3 to 5, we're going to focus on building upon that, making sure that our teachers understand and are supporting students in the 5 pillars of reading, as well as system and structures for MTSS. And then in grades 6 to 8, it's around reading to learn, focused on nonfiction and close reading of complex and compelling text. Okay, before I go on to just some quick calendar updates, are there any questions about anything that I just talked about? Okay, I got a thumbs up, I like that. Okay, just very quickly, some calendar updates for us. Thursday, September 15th, which is tomorrow, is parent-teacher conferences for elementary schools and pre-K centers. Thursday, September 22nd is evening parent-teacher conferences for middle schools and District 75 schools. Our schools are closed Monday, September 26th and Tuesday, September 27th for Rosh Hashanah. Thursday, September 29th is evening parent-teacher conferences for high school, K to 12 and 6 to 12 schools. We are off for Yom Kippur on Wednesday, October 5th, as well as Monday, October 10th for Italian Heritage and Indigenous People Day. Before you go, and I'm sure that our families have had contact with their schools, but there are few schools that do change their parent-teacher conferences. Just make sure that you communicate with your school and make sure that these are the days that they will be sticking with as well. And that's it for me. Oh wait, one last thing, I'm sorry. I want to spend some time talking about the parent portal to make sure that our parents understand this is, it's really hot in here all of a sudden, it's right. Make sure our parents understand this as a resource. So the New York City Schools account, the NYSCA account, has been around for a long time, but they have made some really important changes that we want parents to know. So you can see your students' grades, test scores in more and more in My Students. You can take classes in Parent University, and they have some really amazing classes report bullying incidents, access forms, any types of forms that you would need for your child, reset your children's DOE account password, and access a support hub. In the next few months, more features will be added, making this a true one-stop parent-facing information center to support student learning. So we're really excited about that. And you can sign up for an account by entering a few basic details, and this will allow you to begin receiving notifications from the DOE. It only takes 5 minutes, and it's the first step in getting a full account. What I do say to parents, if you have any questions and you do not have your NISCA parent portal account, to contact your school's parent coordinator, and they will be able to assist you in making sure you have access to them. Okay, that's it for me.
Thank you, Superintendent. So, one of the great things about this district is we have a very passionate superintendent. And I really, truly appreciate that in that district, and we look forward to working with you and your team. So those who are on live streaming, or those who want to see the slides that are presented this evening, they're all accessible on our website, the CEC website, and we look forward to working with you, Superintendent, and did you want to speak about this?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I have so many things to say.
Sure. One more thing.
One more thing.
So I would like to thank Louis Lotito for putting together for our community. It is District 25 school programs at a glance. We have copies here for you to take. But what it really lists is some important information as to what's offered across our schools. It lists our G&T and SP programs that we have, as well as schools that participate in Algebra for All, Computer Science for All, and the Civics for All initiatives. It lists our magnet schools, which for many parents, it is another opportunity and choice for parents to apply to any of these schools across the district. It also lists the enrollment types that we have in terms of it being a zoned school or an application school or middle school choice. It lists the starting grade and ending grade. It lists if a school is Title I, as well as the New York State status and whether or not schools have been blue ribbon. It also lists if we have 3K or pre-K, and our ENL and DO language programs, as well as foreign languages that are offered across the district. So it's a great resource for families who may have questions about all of our schools and what we offer across the district.
Thank you, Superintendent. So before we move on, we don't have a quorum present here with the council. Is there any other item of new business we want to discuss before going to a public speaking time? Council members? Okay, so a reminder to those who are here, our next meeting is going, and I'll get to the public speaking time, but our next meeting will be Wednesday, October 12th. Usually we meet the first Wednesday of every month, but because I believe it's Yom Kippur, we will be meeting on Wednesday, October 12th. Our next meeting involves high school enrollment, which is a hot topic. We have the pleasure of Matthew Brogini coming to our meeting. He is the executive director of middle and high school enrollment. And this is a big concern in our community about what happened last year. So we hope to be able to see you. If there's no other item of new business, I have Mr. Joe Kessler as the first speaker. Mr. Kessler.
Thank you. I want to wish everybody a welcome back. Hope everybody had a wonderful summer. I was the former UFT District 25 rep, but tonight I want to speak basically from Joe Kessler's heart. Recently, the governor signed a lower class size bill. And as I'm in the community, there are some people that are not supporting this. And it's disturbing because we always feel that lower class size helps kids. And if you haven't read about it, kindergarten through 3 would be 20 kids, 20 students. Grades 4 would be grades 4 to 5 would be like 23, and high school would be 25. The New York Post put out an editorial 2 days ago saying that the governor is doing this because of her own personal election, her agenda, when in fact they're using money, pitting money against students, and that's terrible. Whether you're an administrator, a parent, you understand, especially that the last 2.5 years that we've lost due to COVID, this is a perfect time to try to implement this, even though it's a 5-year period of implementation. It shouldn't be worrying about money and the funding. The governor would not have signed this if the money wasn't coming forward. And it's a big step in terms of our education. So if you didn't read the editorial, you have to, because there's a lot of fallacy in the New York Post. And it really talks about the DOE has limited resources, and the funding really will be coming forward. And this is from a city council part, they put this forward, and the governor has stated her dedication to education. One of the other things that they mention is that we're gonna need more space. And that's definitely true in many schools. There are schools that right now are underutilized, but they talk about the newer teachers, the younger teachers going to schools that are hard to staff. And they talk about that all these things that are really not true. You have to really read it. So if you want to Google the editorial, and anybody that wants to argue against lower class size, I would be happy to sit down with them, because every bit of data shows kids learn better, especially with what we do here in District 25 in terms of instruction, one-on-one instruction, running records, assessments. There were days back, and I spent 35 years in the school system. There were days where classes were over 33, 35. And as a parent, you have to be happy about this and pleased. But there are others out there that are saying that, you know, it's a financial burden on schools. And even some administrators have said to me, how is this going to work? But understand, everybody once upon a time was a teacher, and understand that kids need this. And I think it's a great step forward, and then finally, something that we could work with. So I'm hoping that the CEC supports this, the superintendent, and it's a good day in New York City Public Schools. So I want to thank you, and again, I'm so happy for this big team. I was talking to Nathan a little bit, and we're in a good place, and the district keeps growing, and I have passion for District 25, and all the teachers and administrators out there. We're in a great spot, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Next, we have Venus Ketchum. Always a pleasure.
Sure, I'll take it right now. Nice to see you in person after like 3 years. So excited. This is my second in-person CEC meeting since 2020. I was in District 23 in Brooklyn in August, and now I'm here, my first time in Queens, so it's so exciting. And it was worked out perfect that my son who came here when he was like in first grade was when I started, first or second grade was when I started attending CECs in District 25. And I want to just give a little history. Let's see how much I can put in 3 minutes. I started attending District 25 CECs to bring back best practices to my son's school district, to my home school district, which is District 28. District 28 was always number 3 on the list of districts in Queens when the state test score came out. The former superintendent, Dr. Hope Bryan, would give us a list, and it would always be 26, 25, and then 28. Now, 30 knocked us out of the spot because they have a lot of parent involvement and a lot of diversity. But I checked my email, it was October 2013 that I attended the first parent summit, I believe at IS 25. And then I realized recently that I'm actually a product of District 25. I never thought of it like that, but I grew up in Flushing in a family-owned home on 75th Avenue and 152nd Street, directly across the street from PS 154. It was the mailbox at my house. So I attended PS 154, I attended Parsons Junior High School 168 before it changed to QSI, now RFK 250, and then I went over to Jamaica High School with my own school, where I lived on the street. But I became passionate about parent empowerment and parent education once I became a parent. I'm a paraprofessional, so I've always been passionate about youth and education, but it became personal when my son entered the public school system in 2011 at the age of 4 years old. He was diagnosed with ADHD with an evaluation from Queens College for free. So I encourage parents to get free and low-cost evaluations to know your child's disability before the DOE tells you. That's a tip and a trick that I tell them. You should know. They shouldn't be telling you we notice things in the classroom. So he was 4 years old when he was diagnosed with ADHD. I had him skip the grade when he was in pre-K. In 2011, he started pre-K in September, he went into kindergarten in December. Because he was at a struggling school or a school striving for success where there was an 8% ELA score, passing rate for ELA, and a 10% passing rate for math. So that means more than 90% of the students were not on grade level at his elementary school. So I had him put in kindergarten. I also encourage parents, you know your child best. Don't wait on an evaluation. Take your child to a tutoring center. And shout out to Ivan Khan, the founder of Khan's Tutorials. I met him through Pam Skinner when there was a whole big push around specialized high schools. But I encourage parents not to pay for the tutoring, sorry sir, but to get the diagnostic. So you can compare what you get from Kumon, JEI, and his place with what the teachers are telling you your child can and cannot do. Because if I would have listened to the system, my child would have been in District 75. Yet when he got into the 3rd grade, he got a level 3 in ELA and a 4 in math every year. Because I had, and I'm not bragging about him, I want to encourage parents to get that evaluation, to understand the different components of an evaluation. The broad reasoning skills, the math skills, the reading skills. I knew he was in a 99 percentile in math, so a teacher could never tell me what he couldn't do, right? Because I was empowered as a parent when he was 4. So imagine me now, he's 15, right? He's gonna be a junior at Bayside. He is a junior at Bayside High School, triple threat, varsity football, varsity basketball, varsity baseball. But imagine if I would have not been empowered when I came into the system. Imagine if I didn't come to this CEC meeting and hear presentations like that and be able to bring it back to families in Southeast Queens and in Jamaica where they don't know this information and their kids are railroaded to District 75 program when it might just be an AIS RTI issue and they're understaffed. So when they talk about the UFP and class sizes, the reality is there's a teacher shortage in New York City and there are not enough teachers now. So imagine when the class sizes get smaller, we're gonna be scrambling. So we gotta really deal with the reality of the resources that we have to support our students' success. But again, I've always come to the district to take that. It was never to judge you, it was never, but I am excited to hear the data of the district because I became passionate about PS 201. I remember when I worked in that baseball field at the Police Athletic League, and the kids were struggling, and the kids were cursing, and multiple kids, and to hear that the school is improving, the principal called me himself and told me about the great new programs that they're having, but I know they're gonna need support, because if you compare 201 to 200, if you compare 154 to 164, right, we wanna really look at the data from a parent's perspective, not from an educator, because I am an educator, But our community needs to understand the numbers and create goals alongside with the superintendent's office and the district, understanding early literacy. I can't wait to hear a presentation about what reading curriculum you're using, and if it's gonna be district-wide, what reading remediation programs are you using, and ensuring that parents understand it and utilize it in the home. So I know you gave me so much more. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I
thank you.
can answer that. When you want.
So thank you. So across the district, most of our schools for early childhood are using Foundations and Heggerty as the intervention to support. But we have right now currently 20 schools, 24 that are doing letters, yeah. 20 of our schools are investing in letters, which is not a curriculum. It is a professional learning opportunity for our teachers around reading and the brain. So what your mind does as you're learning to read. So it is a 2-year professional learning opportunity for our teachers to really explore decoding, phonics, phonemic awareness, but through what our minds do as we're learning to read. So we're really excited about that work, and that's starting in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Chow?
Good evening. I love what you said. I feel my son is trying to get a IEP for my son. Anyway, I want to respond to Mr. Kessler. I retired from the DOE, but you beat me. I only have 34 years and 2 months of services. I was a UFT member and a CSA member. I belong to a couple of organizations that are against smaller class size, not because it's not a great idea. I just did some simple math since I was a math teacher. If you reduce each class by 8 students and you have 30 teachers, right? That's 40 kids. That's 12 classes. I don't think there's a single elementary school or middle school in District 25 that has 12 classrooms available during the day. I'm using 30, which is a small number. I'm sure there's 80, 90 teachers. So we're against it, not because it's not a great idea. I was a math AP, smaller class size, definitely wonderful, right? But if you don't have the physical room, where are you gonna put these extra children? There's no shortage of classrooms in District 28. Are you gonna force the kid in district to go to District 28 so they have a seat? I don't think anybody is against it. I didn't read the editorial. I'm against it not because it's a bad idea. It is simply not doable in District 25. It's just not doable, all right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chow. So I do want to express that the feelings of Mr. Chow may not necessarily be the feelings of the council as a whole, right? So we have not had a meeting regarding class size reduction. Maybe we need to do that in the future. I know that our state senator came here a few months ago and he was proponent for class size reduction. So interesting discussion, but maybe we need to have a community meeting about it, right? So the good thing about, I'm gonna get to you in a second, our district, we have the elected officials who really do get involved. They come to our meetings. You know, this is kind of short notice of having the in-person meetings. I had some elected officials that wanted to come this evening, but they thought it would be virtual, which is not. I do want to remind you that Sandra Ung has brought about a fall festival scheduled for September 24th at Casina Corridor Park, and she encourages you to attend that. The flyer's up in the front. I will go to our next speaker.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? My name is Dr. Evan Khan, and I run a tutoring company called Consultorial. But more importantly, I'm a child of 2 UFT teachers. I grew up in a UFT household, and I've been I graduated from medical school and I have my MPH, but I've dedicated my life to teaching kids, mostly kids of immigrants. I have some of my old students here, and I'm so glad to see them grow up. I just wanted to take an opportunity to share a few of the things that I really loved about tonight's presentations and a few suggestions about it. The presentation that you created, that, you know, it's a really easy to follow presentation for us. I haven't checked the DOE website to see what they have, but if it's anything more complicated than what you have, I'm convinced that parents might be a little lost. There's so many of my own parents in my schools that do depend on YouTube. For immigrant communities, whether it's WhatsApp, WeChat, you name the part of the world, if there's any way that you can get your fantastic presentation translated and shared through YouTube, a lot of parents would know exactly the road to getting their kid the right help. I am a parent of a child diagnosed with ADHD and a son who's also very recently diagnosed with autism. So my wife and I are always studying every single book and talking about every single aid possible. And I have two of my nieces and nephews who've actually come to your office for their services. They're College Point residents, and I picked up my sister, cousin from this office downstairs about right before COVID hit. So some of the things that we've seen that really worked has been sharing of this information in digestible ways that parents are able to consume it, because they're consuming stuff on their phones as it is. And the other thing that I think really, really goes a long way is your tour and making sure we get more and more other professionals that are not from the academic space involved. And I mean physicians and pediatricians. Too often in my community of South Asian immigrants, I have parents with children that are 7 or 8 or 9 that are undiagnosed for autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, other severe learning disabilities, and oftentimes they're getting bad medical advice from their community docs because they're following more cultural things, saying like, oh, don't worry, boys will speak at age 5 or 6. Western medicine overdoes it anyway. So I'm spending a lot of my time just speaking with families, bending down and communicating with a child just to see where we are and figuring out the right medical experts who can do the diagnosis, because the school won't do certain diagnoses because of just compliance. So the work being done here is excellent. If there's any way we can get in touch with the pediatric developmental community here, neurologists. It took us finding a neurologist to get my son diagnosed, and we've been waiting for 3 years. And we're in Nassau, so it's not a fault of anyone in New York City, but those are the problems that we faced in Nassau. Underdiagnosis, non-diagnosis, COVID hits, we wait 3 years, don't get services, from a certain point, and now we're back on the radar as being positively identified as having it. So those are the things that are happening to me, and my wife and I have a lot of privilege from our education, so I cannot imagine the torture that my parents are going through in my communities throughout Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, and Manhattan. So thank you for bringing this all together.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. So you also make an interesting point. Sometimes it's a cultural thing, but Venus, I admire you because you're a passionate parent who comes to these meetings. So maybe if we reach out, as a community to the parent, because the parents generally would know, right? Because the parents need also to talk to their pediatricians, right? Because they have the access. So it's something that involves teamwork. Yeah, everybody working together.
This school system and the medical
village. Exactly.
It has to involve the professionals and then bring the parents along.
Our superintendent took on. I know she's on it. Okay.
I'm on it.
So I thank you.
Give more homework.
Thank you. Are there any other members that would like to a word or two? Okay.
Don't be shy. Oh, we got to eat one thing. Please. Oh my God, I totally forgot. Thank you. My 30 seconds is parents. I charge you on the Zoom and in person. Come with one question. Just say, hi, my kid goes to 165 and it's great. Don't be shy. I don't do this you can hear me speak. I know the DOE thinks I'm coming after them. I'm not. I'm coming for parents. Don't be shy. Just say, hola, mi nombre es, mi estudiante es, necesita por favor. Ask your questions. Don't be shy. I do this for parents to find their voice. It's so important for all of our children to be successful.
Absolutely, thank you, Venus. And it's something that our new chancellor is also, he wants parents as members to get involved, so I encourage you.
Yes.
Would you like to say something? Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Yolanda. It is my first meeting that I attended. I just want to be really thank you for Mr. Carter, because this is my son. He do amazing things with him. I'm so grateful with you. Everything that is happening right now on his life changed like 100% on PS 79, and I'm so grateful with the Mr. Carter, District 25. I was so with you. Thank you so much for all you've done with my son. So I'm happy that now he's in middle school and he's encouraged himself and he's doing. This is his first week, so he's doing the best that he can. But thank you for all the support that he gave to us. So I'm happy to be here the first time, and thank you everybody for being
That was wonderful, thank you, and good luck to your son in middle school, and
Yes.
Principal Carter, yes. Esther, you have to say something also?
Welcome everyone, my name is George Carter, I'm principal at PS 79. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram, Principal Carter, PS 79, it's an excellent account. I do just want to speak on behalf of District 25 and not just PS 79. District 25 is the best district. I love my job, I love coming to school every day and working with the kids. And one thing, just building off what you said, you need to reframe as parents how you look at your schools. We work for you, and we are very adaptive and very reactive to parent needs. Don't hesitate to come up and ask questions and speak. We all have the same goal, we want our kids to succeed. I'll speak for my school specifically. We adapt and adjust all the time to what our kids' wants and needs are and what our parents' wants and needs are. So please just rethink your relationship with your school. We work for you, and that's something you always need to remember. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Principal Carter. So, I think we have a question from one of our parents through our interpreter. And thank you, did a great job today.
Esther.
Yay!
Okay, Mom has a student in PS 21 and 185. Mom wanted me to bring this up so that you could help other parents like her and her husband. So both kids are walkers and they go home and there's not after school available. She wanted to know what could be done to have more after school, so that, or the possibility that she can pick up her kids a little bit later.
So I can.
Thank you, Esther, and thank you for that question. It's an important question. It's something that comes up all the time.
So, the one thing that I will check with 185, all of our middle schools have free after-school programs. I just wanna make sure that there's enough seat availability, and that's something that I will check tomorrow. And Esther, you will get back to the family, so make sure you have her contact information. But secondly, one of the biggest things that we're pushing for as a community, and thank you to the CEC for that too, is to increase the amount of after-school programs that we have for our families in District 25. I think District 25, although they say, Ms. Bashar just texted me. Thank you, Ms. Bashar. She said that the after-school starts on September 19th, so if there are seats, and they're taking 60, so then Ms. Bashar, I'll have Esther give the parent's name to you. She's texting me. So that's District 25 for you, we're service. We will continue to push for more, cost-free seats for our district because we desperately need them. And I do thank Mr. DiBenedetto and the rest of the CEC for asking DYCD to come and do that. However, there are also, unfortunately, opportunities for parents to pay for after school. And for schools that do not have them, you can do outreach to your school's principal and their SLT, because we have community-based organizations that we work with across the district, and there are many of them who are willing to come in and do presentations for families to see if they are interested in what each individual after-school program that's to be paid will have to offer. So we can do that. But in the meantime, we are pushing for additional after-school seats through DYCD for our families.
Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Shah has a comment, and I think we need to have another meeting, a CEC meeting regarding after-school programs, because it does come up all the time. We did have a meeting about it last year, right? But I think it's time to bring it back, and we will.
Good evening again. I just want to recognize Mr. Carter. My children, two of them, go to PS 79. My daughter during the summer vacation said she wanted to go back to school. But thank you.
Oh, Mr. Carter, you're the best, man. You guys should see him on TikTok, though. It's very funny. Instagram too, you're right.
So if there is nothing else or anyone else, if we're done with our public speaking time, I think I'm gonna call the meeting adjourned. Although we're not all here, we'll have a brief meeting after a 2-minute break regarding our business meeting. And we invite you to come to our October 12th meeting, which involves high school enrollment, which is a hot topic, okay? Thank you, everyone, and we'll take a 5-minute break. Business meeting. Do I need to put the microphone on?
The mic's on.
Do I need the mic?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna start the business meeting, if you guys don't mind. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order for our business meeting.
She did say that.
Yes.
She
When
did.
you wasn't there, I was like, he's a man. You gotta watch out. You saw what Zari took you up, but you saw what Norman did to Amber. You better watch out.
Okay,
You better
all right,
watch
well,
out.
all right.
She's due to retire. She has to. She wanna live her best life. Like start doing. Are you Puerto Rican?
Dr. Mike, what are you trying to do over here?
No, my husband is.
Where are you
You're
from?
taking him
I'm where
Your family is so
Italy.
Oh, well, you wanna go to Italy with us? You ain't got no Italy.
I intend to.
You know she did that break up and so good.
That's the best.
All right, so I'm gonna call the business meeting to order because it looks like security came in here and I think they looking to leave, right? Yeah, she came in a minute ago.
I'll catch you on the Zoom.
Thank you, Venus.
Let me in.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler.
All
right, see you soon.
Sorry I didn't say hello.
Thank you, Joe.
Bye.
Okay, so if we have the roll call again, just for formalities. Present.
Wing Yu is absent, Rushman Krishna is absent, Michelle Frederick is absent, Enrique Nabel is absent, Sonia Lee, present, Joseph Chow,
I want one too, but I'll be present.
and Sana Tayeb.
Present.
Okay, so I mean, we don't have quorum, so we really can't do anything, but I do want to talk to the council members about maybe calling a special meeting, because for us to allow for video conferencing or to have a hybrid meeting, we have to put it in our bylaws and we have to vote on it. And under the open meetings law, now we have to have quorum present before we can do anything to update our bylaws. So we're just defeating, we're not doing anything as a council because we cannot conduct business. I understand, some of our council members didn't know that the exemption was gonna cut off on short notice, but we really need to have our council members present. We also asked our borough president, Carly, I saw Monica Gutierrez at when I met the chancellor at one of the schools, and she told me there's no applications in. So I think that's a misstatement, because I believe that some of our parents did put applications in for borough president appointee. It doesn't mean he has to appoint them, but they're telling me there's only like one application. in. And I thought that maybe one of the, I think Crystal or Eden had put an application with the borough president. So, and I thought that at least one or two other parents did. And I know you invited the borough president to come, and I don't think you got a response, but I did get a contact name and an email. Serena Fabry, SFABRE@queensbp.org. If you send her an email, I'm told that she'll respond. Okay, I'll give it to you later if you need it. So the point I want to make to my fellow council members is, speak to the members that are not present this evening. We need to move forward with our business. We cannot do anything without having a quorum of 6 members present. So if we come back, and maybe we want to call a special meeting before October 12th, because we need to decide on whether or not we're going to do video conferencing. So we did it tonight, we live streamed only because we wanted the public to see that, the resources on the special meeting. But if we do hybrid and we have quorum present, then those that are not present, council members, are able to vote under the open meeting law, right? So we need to do something. And our next meeting is, I think it's a hot topic. It's high school enrollment. I have a resolution that I would want to present to you guys. We can't even vote on it because we're not gonna have quorum. So what are we doing, right?
Let's have a meeting, I agree.
So, does anyone here have a suggestion on a special meeting date? So, or you wanna maybe contact the others and then.
Send out an email.
All right, so if Carly sends out an email to everyone asking for a special meeting, then we'll call that, because it has to be a public meeting.
And it has to be in person.
And it has to be in person. So again, then we need to discuss the rules, what's exceptions, what exceptions are permitted. There are some council members that refuse to come. Maybe if they're unexcused absences, we can have them removed and then get somebody else on. If you sign up for the job, you need to come to our meetings, I'm sorry. But that's my opinion, but we have to vote on all that. But we can't vote on it if we only have 3 or 4 members present, okay? So Carly, you'll send an email to all the council members, give us some dates, and maybe we can call for a special meeting to discuss whether or not we're gonna go hybrid, and to discuss whether we're gonna allow video conferencing, because we have to amend our bylaws to do that. And if you have any questions, we can have Juliana also come, because she seems to be versed in what's required. So other than that, I don't know if any other council members have any other items to discuss.
Do I need this?
I think, I mean,
Okay.
are we live streaming it? I mean, do we have the microphone for some reason?
Well, the mic, the wire is the one that really counts.
Oh, okay, so I don't know why I was talking that. You don't need a mic.
Oh, so we're still live, right?
Yeah.
All right, I was told, CC20 just passed a resolution about not supporting, lottery for high school.
So that's part of the resolution that I wanted to present, but I
Okay.
wanted to follow the high school enrollment presentation by Matt
Okay.
Borghini. So
Fair
that's a hot topic, right? It's in the folder. You'll see a proposed resolution in the folder.
I'll go home and read it.
Yes, I mean, I, as a council member, want to have, I don't want a lottery. I want it based on merit, right? Because that's the way it was. And most
Right.
members that I've talked to in our community seem to be upset about what happened this year
Right.
with enrollment, because their 99 average student did not get into any of the high schools.
Or the 85 student
Or
got
got
lumped
in,
into the same
right,
category as
so
the
that's
99
something we need to discuss and possibly vote on a resolution.
Right.
But our resolution is only in the, what we sent to the city.
I know
But
that.
we're not gonna be able to do that if we don't have quorum. But I understand your position. Look in your folder, there's a
will.
proposed
I will.
resolution.
Good.
I got it from District 26, apparently they signed off on
Yeah.
it. I knew about District 20.
Yeah, they just passed.
Right, so, we can't do anything if we don't have, and we get, I get it, Carly gets a lot of emails, I'm sure the district office gets a lot of phone calls. I got personal phone calls from parents that were outraged at what happened. So I was surprised. I went to the District 26 virtual meeting, and I saw Matt Brogini there, and I was appalled that we invited him to our meetings and he wouldn't come, but he was there, so he agreed to come. He was gonna,
We have to change their perception about District 25 schools.
well, you know, District 25 has a lot of strong students and parents that, you know, we really need to make a statement to the city, right? Apart from District 26, 24, whoever else. Anything else?
Good.
You're good?
Great to see everybody.
Yeah, nice to see you. Well, we usually come in person anyway.
No, well, I haven't been here for the past 2 meetings
Okay,
because if they allow me not to be here.
Right.
I won't come here.
So I just stress,
No, but I
point to
want to be
stress,
here to congratulate them in person.
we did not, I didn't make that, you know, the governor
I don't know.
changed the rule, so that's the law, yeah.
Yeah.
I was surprised, we had a nice turnout tonight.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great.
it was good. Yeah, it was good. And I'm glad, you know, thank you to
Well, let's
Esther
hope we get
about the interpreter.
all the members, or all the council members, and let's get some stuff done this year.
Yep,
We didn't do much last year.
because we were very limited with the hybrid, with the attendance of our CC members, so we need to get business done.
So the two candidates that we were reviewing last year, do they have to reapply this year for this school year, or those applications still carry forward? Oh, so we can work on those.
So Eden and Crystal, I'm not sure if they're still interested in the position, but we were stagnated, right? We didn't have the vote for either one. But I had asked both of them to put the application in for borough-appointed
For
representative.
this year.
For this
Oh,
year,
okay.
well, yeah, but now, otherwise they have to run for election for the next term.
Okay, can they run for election this year? It's a new year, right?
No, we're already started the new year, so we're council members, and it's a 2-year term. We are all on until June. There's going to be elections for the
Okay.
next term. They can run if they qualify, but if they want to come in as BP appointees, they need to put the application in. We're already 15 months, 16 months into our term, and we don't have BP
Why
appointees.
is it so delayed though? Is it?
That's a question I have for the borough president.
Yeah.
District 26 got it 14 months ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I also have Esther doing outreach to the high schools again, the high school seats, high school seats.
Yes.
So if
Oh,
anybody
that
knows
too.
a high schooler that's in a senior
Oh, we lost
in
that.
leadership capacity that wants to sit,
You want preferably a junior or senior, right?
can only
Has to
be a
be
senior.
senior.
Oh, has to be senior.
And so Monica Gutierrez, who is the education person for the borough president, told me there are no applications, just one. So if you know anybody in the district who wants to be a BP appointed representative, we should ask Crystal if, she, you know, I'll follow up on that. Put your application in like ASAP, so maybe we can get quorum.
The requirement is.
I think you have to live in the district or have a business in the district. I don't think you necessarily have to have a child that goes to school. Yeah. Otherwise, you have to qualify through the election.
Yeah, this is why you cannot qualify for that.
Eden, I think
she's not- she doesn't have
I think her
residence.
students go here, but she doesn't reside here. Our kids go here, they're
yeah.
students, but she doesn't.
Makes
But
sense.
Crystal can.
Crystal can,
So
yeah.
perhaps if Crystal comes in as a BP
That's
representative,
one more person.
then we just have one applicant and we can get Eden in.
Then can I get the information of?
From who? For,
Do you have the application?
do you have the,
I have to email.
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
I might
yeah.
have some.
if you have
Yeah,
parents,
yeah.
then let them put their application in. But like, you know, if you want to get it done now, have it get, you know, like, yeah, okay. We need 6 people here, right? So the more representatives if we have 12, we're supposed to have 12, right? We only have 11, 11. We only have 8. So if we have 11, then we're gonna get quorum and we can
Yeah,
do
we're getting a
business.
lot more done.
And we'll get a lot more
More
done.
done.
All right, anything else?
No,
We good?
we're good.
All right, so it's a
Yeah,
pleasant,
nice
good,
meeting.
great meeting. 9 o'clock, we finished at a good time. Are we good?
Because no one's arguing.
Meeting adjourned.
Sorry, I had to put that one in. I'm sorry, I had to put that one.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll
All right,
see you
guys.
October
Thank you.
12th, unless we do a special meeting. Carly, you'll get the email out. Thank you.
Try to make it Monday, Tuesday, please. Great to see you.
Good seeing everybody.